Melatonin. You're in bed, lights off, phone finally down. Your body's tired, but your brain missed the memo. So you take melatonin, expecting it to knock you out. It doesn't work like that. Melatonin isn't a sleeping pill. It doesn't sedate you. It's a signal, a timestamp. It tells your brain night has started. That's it. Your brain already makes it when darkness hits your eyes. The supplement just turns the volume up. When it helps, it shifts your internal clock earlier. Sleep shows up sooner. Waking up shifts earlier too. That's why it works best for jet lag or a flipped schedule. If your problem is stress, anxiety, or mental noise, melatonin doesn't fix that. It announces bedtime while the party keeps going. It also nudges your core body temperature down, slightly. That drop is one of the triggers for falling asleep, but push the dose too high and the signal gets sloppy. Sleep becomes lighter. Dreams get vivid. You wake up early, alert for no good reason, like your brain clock punched out before the job was done. Use it long enough and your brain gets lazy. Skip a night and sleep suddenly feels impossible. Not because you forgot how, but because the external cue is gone. For some people, melatonin messes with REM sleep. Dreams become intense. Emotional processing goes sideways. You wake up remembering things you didn't ask to review at 6 a.m. Melatonin doesn't force sleep, it schedules it. And schedules only work if the rest of your behavior agrees. Antihistamines. It's late, you're restless. You grab a PM pill because it says sleep on the label and calm in the font choice. You feel heavy fast. That part works. Antihistamines don't create sleep. They create drowsiness. They block histamine, a chemical your brain uses to stay alert and attentive. Turn histamine down and consciousness gets blurry. Not quiet, blurry. That's why these drugs make you feel sedated but not rested. Your brain isn't moving naturally through sleep stages. It's being chemically slowed, like putting your mind in molasses and calling it bedtime. They also cross the blood-brain barrier easily. That's the problem. Blocking histamine in the brain interferes with memory formation, attention, and REM sleep. Dreams flatten, emotional processing weakens. You sleep longer but lighter. The next day tells the truth. Brain fog, slow reaction time. That cotton-filled head feeling that doesn't clear with coffee. That's a residual anticholinergic effect. The drug didn't clock out when you did. Use them regularly and tolerance builds fast. One pill becomes two. Then they stop working entirely. Worse, long-term use has been linked to memory impairment and increased dementia risk. Not immediately, but quietly, over years. They're useful in short bursts, allergies, a brutal cold. A night or two when sleep matters more than quality. But as a nightly solution, they trade real sleep for unconsciousness. You didn't fall asleep naturally, you powered down. Alcohol. It starts casually. A drink to take the edge off. Muscles relax. Thoughts slow. Sleep shows up faster than usual. That part is real. Alcohol is a sedative, not a sleep aid. It depresses the central nervous system. Neural activity slows. Self-control drops. Consciousness fades. You don't drift into sleep. You're pushed into it. Early in the night, alcohol increases deep sleep. That's why it feels effective. You pass out hard, but the brain doesn't stay there. As alcohol is metabolized, the effect reverses. Stress hormones rise. The nervous system rebounds. REM sleep takes the biggest hit. Alcohol suppresses it aggressively. Dreams disappear. Emotional processing gets skipped. Memory consolidation weakens. The brain doesn't clean house. It just shuts the lights off. As the alcohol wears off, the brain becomes hyper-alert. Heart rate climbs. Body temperature rises. You wake up around 3 or 4 a.m., not anxious about anything specific, just awake. That's rebound stimulation. A mild withdrawal response, even after one drink. Use alcohol regularly and the brain adapts. Sedation weakens. Rebound alertness strengthens. You need more to fall asleep and wake up worse each time. Sleep quality drops while dependence creeps in quietly. Alcohol doesn't calm the nervous system. It suppresses it temporarily, then overstimulates it later. The night feels smooth, but the architecture underneath is wrecked. Let's be honest, you didn't sleep better. You just blacked out earlier. Cannabis. You take it to slow things down. Thoughts soften. Time stretches. Sleep feels closer. And sometimes it works exactly like that. Cannabis affects sleep through the endocannabinoid system, which helps regulate mood, appetite, and circadian rhythm. THC, the main psychoactive compound, makes it easier to fall asleep by reducing arousal and anxiety. Sleep onset speeds up. That's the part people like. But sleep depth changes. THC suppresses REM sleep, especially with regular use. Dreams fade or disappear. Emotional processing gets postponed. When REM stays blocked night after night, the brain builds pressure. Skip cannabis and dreams rebound. Intense, vivid, sometimes disturbing. Deep sleep can increase slightly at first. Over time, that benefit fades. Tolerance builds. More is needed for the same effect. Without it, falling asleep becomes harder than before. Not because sleep broke, but because the brain adapted. Cannabis also alters sleep timing. It can delay the circadian rhythm, pushing sleep later and making mornings heavier. Waking up feels slow, motivation lags, attention drifts. The brain isn't foggy exactly, it's muted. Long-term use reshapes sleep dependency. The brain learns to rely on external calming instead of internal regulation. That's why stopping can cause insomnia, restlessness, and night sweats for days or weeks. Cannabis doesn't create restorative sleep. It changes the experience of falling asleep and edits the architecture underneath. Yes, night feels easy. The recovery doesn't. Antidepressants. Sleep problems are often the reason these get prescribed in the first place. You're anxious, wired, awake at the wrong hours. The pill promises balance. Antidepressants don't target sleep directly. They change neurotransmitters, serotonin, norepinephrine, sometimes dopamine, and sleep shifts as a side effect. Not always in the direction you expect. Some make you drowsy, others do the opposite. Sedating antidepressants slow the nervous system and make falling asleep easier. Activating ones increase alertness and fragment sleep, especially early on. Either way, the brain has to adapt. REM sleep almost always changes. Most antidepressants suppress it, dreams thin out, emotional processing gets muted. That can reduce nightmares and intrusive thoughts, which is why they help some people sleep. But it also flattens emotional depth over time. Sleep continuity can improve. Fewer awakenings, longer total hours, but sleep stages become less flexible. The brain spends less time in the lighter, creative phases of REM and more time in uniform cycles that feel stable but dull. Side effects show up during the day: grogginess, vivid dreams that punch through suppression, restless legs, night sweats. The drug didn't just affect mood, it rewired the rhythm underneath it. When stopped abruptly, REM rebounds hard, dreams return fast and intense, sleep becomes chaotic. That's not relapse, that's the brain rebalancing systems that were held down. Antidepressants don't fix sleep. They reshape it to stabilize mood first and deal with sleep second. Z drugs. They sound safer than they are. Not benzos, not heavy, just a sleep pill designed for modern insomnia. You take it and sleep shows up on schedule. Z drugs, like Ambien and Lunesta, work by targeting GABA-A receptors, the brain's main braking system. Same pathway as benzodiazepines. Narrower aim, similar outcome. Neural activity slows and consciousness dims. They're good at one thing: sleep onset. You fall asleep faster. That's why they're prescribed. But once you're out, sleep quality changes. Deep sleep may increase slightly. REM often decreases. The brain rests, but it doesn't fully process. Memory is where the cracks show. These drugs interfere with memory consolidation. That's why people text, eat, shop, or even drive with no recall. The brain is asleep, but the body is not. Consciousness is offline, behavior is still running. Tolerance builds quickly. A few weeks in, the same dose stops working. Higher doses increase side effects without restoring natural sleep architecture. Dependence creeps in quietly. Stopping suddenly brings rebound insomnia that feels worse than the original problem. Next day effects linger. Slowed reaction time, emotional flatness, a faint dissociation that makes mornings feel unreal. Not hungover, just dulled. Z drugs don't teach your brain how to sleep. They replace the process with a shortcut. Benzodiazepines. This is where sleep stops being negotiated. You take a benzo and the nervous system shuts up. Anxiety drops, muscles loosen, consciousness fades fast. Benzodiazepines work by amplifying GABA, the brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. GABA is the brake pedal. Benzos don't tap it, they hold it down. Neural firing slows everywhere, not just where sleep lives. That's why they feel powerful. Thoughts quiet, fear dissolves, sleep feels unavoidable. But what you enter isn't natural sleep. It's chemical suppression. Brain waves flatten. REM sleep drops. Deep sleep thins. You're unconscious, but the brain isn't cycling the way it should. Memory formation takes a hit almost immediately. New information doesn't stick. Emotional learning stalls. This is why panic softens. The brain can't reinforce fear. And also why long-term use dulls emotional range. Less anxiety, less clarity. The brain adapts fast. Receptors downregulate. What worked last month barely works now. Miss a dose and the nervous system rebounds hard. Anxiety spikes, sleep collapses. The body feels electric, like the brakes failed at highway speed. Withdrawal isn't just uncomfortable, it can be dangerous. Insomnia, tremors, panic, seizures. That's because the brain outsourced regulation and forgot how to apply the brakes on its own. Benzos can be life-saving in acute moments. Severe panic, crisis states, short windows. But as a sleep solution, they trade long-term stability for immediate silence. Orexin blockers. You're exhausted, but your brain won't disengage. It's alert for no reason. Thoughts keep looping. Orexin blockers are built for this exact problem. Orexin is a wake drive chemical. It keeps you alert, motivated, and responsive to the world. When orexin is active, sleep can't fully take over. Orexin blockers work by shutting that signal off directly. Unlike most sleep drugs, they don't sedate you. They remove wakefulness. That's the difference. Instead of forcing the brain down, they stop it from staying up. When they work, sleep feels more natural. You fall asleep without being knocked out. Sleep stages stay closer to normal. REM is preserved. Deep sleep isn't flattened. The brain cycles instead of stalling. There's less cognitive hangover the next day, less fog, less emotional blunting. You wake up feeling like you slept, not like you were unplugged. They're not universal. Timing matters. Take them too late and mornings feel slow. Take them too early and sleep can fragment. Some people experience vivid dreams or temporary sleep paralysis. That's REM coming through clearly, not being suppressed. They also don't fix stress, anxiety, or poor habits. They only remove wake pressure. If your brain is racing for emotional reasons, orexin blockers won't quiet the noise. They just stop wakefulness from blocking the path. It turns out sleep drugs come with terms and conditions. Most people never read them. Hit like if this made sense and subscribe for the next breakdown.